In this video tutorial, you'll be shown how to create an interactive table of contents for your EDAR 241 Visual Arts assignment. Now, to create a table of contents, you need to use Word. And so the version of Word that I am using and the operating system I'm using, so I'm using a Mac, and I'm using the Mac 2011 version of Word, is probably going to be different to the operating system and the version of Word that many of you will be using. So whilst this isn't a foolproof demonstration of how to create a table of contents, because there are going to be differences across the operating systems and versions of Word, the premise is the same. So the language is the same, and what happens is the same, but what you might need to do is to do a little bit of searching around in your version of Word for where the particular functions are, because they may not be in the same place. So when you're creating a table of contents, the table of contents is driven by the application of styles to parts of your document. So styles is a function in Word that allows you to create different hierarchies of headings, and those are what eventually go and drive your table of contents. So up in this ribbon along the top here, there are a number of different styles or headings there. The way that I'm going to use it for this video tutorial is actually I'm going to click on my styles pane, which is just in this area, and this drops down sort of pre-formatted headings that allow me to create my table of contents. So when you look at Word, it's probably going to say heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, etc., etc. I'm using a style pane that I've created for other writing that I do. So APA Level 1, APA Level 2, 3, and 4. And those align with heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. And as I said, it's the hierarchy of those headings that allow the table of contents to be created. So level 1 is the highest, so that's going to be the biggest, most important heading, and level 4 is where you're getting lower down the hierarchy, and that's going to be a heading of less significance. So I'm going to show you how to create part of the table of contents for the assignment. I'm not going to put in every single heading that you could possibly use, but it will give you an idea about how to create it. So if you think about what we've got in our assignment, we've got an introduction. Within that introduction, we have maybe the biography of the artist, just a couple of sentences. We have the practice of the artist, a couple of sentences. And we have the big idea. So as I said, do not use this as the one and only way that you can put the table of contents together. This is just for an example of what you might be able to do. We also have our chapter 1. And within our chapter 1 we have explore and express ideas. We have visual arts practices. We have present and perform. And we have respond and interpret. We also have chapter 1. Within that we have lesson 1. We have lesson 2. Sorry, that's meant to be chapter 2. Chapter 2. Lesson 2 and lesson 3. And we also have our references. So remember that in APA, which is the formatting style, the writing style you're using for your assignment, it's not a bibliography, it's not a reference list, it's called references. So these are going to be the titles throughout my document, throughout the assessment that I'm submitting. So what I'm going to do now is apply the styles to these different headings to show you how the different style headings of 1, 2, 3, and 4 can be used to craft a table of contents. So my major headings are going to be introduction, so that's going to get heading 1. Chapter 1 will also get a heading 1. Chapter 2 will get a heading 1, and references will get heading 1. So these are the actual titles within the document. So once I've done this, I'll then separate them out so they're on different pages. Then I'm going to have heading 2, which is a little bit sort of, a heading that is less important than heading 1, but has still got some sort of weight to it. So I'm going to put biography of the artist as heading 2, practice of the artist as heading 2, and big idea as heading 2. Likewise, explore and express ideas, visual arts practices, present and perform, and respond and interpret. And lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually apply the table of contents so that the table of contents is created. So I'm going to put my cursor before the word introduction, and then I'm going to go to the top of my screen, which you won't be able to see because it's not being captured by the software, but I'm going to go to Insert, and then I'm going to go down to Index and Tables, click on that, and in this dialog box at the top I've got Index, Table of Contents, Table of Figures, Table of Authorities. I want the Table of Contents. In my version of Word on the Mac, it gives me a number of templates, and I think it will do the same for you. If you're not using, obviously, a similar version of Word. Then it'll give you an example of what it looks like. And because I'm going to be using a number of heading levels, so I'm going to use about 4 different heading levels, I want to make sure that where it says show levels, I've got at least 4 in there. So I've put 7 just to keep myself, just to make sure I'm safe. And then I'm going to click on OK. And so what you will see has happened is it's begun to it's developed the table of contents for me. So the major titles, which are heading 1, appear in bold, and then I used heading 2 for the subheadings. Now the fact that the table of contents is on the same page as the introduction doesn't matter for the moment. I'll clear that up in a little bit later on. Now I actually want to add another heading to this, and so if you obviously will recall, under each strand, explore and express ideas being one of them, we've actually got 2 interrelated principles, and they are responding and making. And they are going to be appearing in each strand that you are examining. And because the responding and making is less of an important title than explore and express, and certainly less of an important title than, say, the chapter headings, I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to give it a heading 3, and I'm going to give making a heading 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy those and repeat them for the other strands. And I'm actually just going to unbold those. Okay, so I've now added another set of headings to my table of contents. So I'm going to go and update my table of contents. And the way that I do that is I click on the table of contents once, and then I right-click. I go to Update Field, and I don't just want the page numbers only, I want to update my entire table. So I'm going to click in Update Entire Table and then OK. And you'll see that the other titles are now beginning to appear in my document. Now, obviously, I don't want everything on the same page. So what I'm going to do now is put a series of pages in. So just before introduction, I'm going to insert a page break, and then I'm going to do the same just before chapter 1. Insert the break. Just before chapter 2, I'm going to insert a page break. and just before references, I'm going to insert a page break. I'm then going to scroll back up to my table of contents. I'm going to click on it once and then right click, update field, update entire table. And you'll see that the page numbers are now beginning to change. And you'll also see that when I run my mouse over it, it brings up the sort of hyperlink sign. So if I was to click on page 5, it takes me to my reference page.